Welcome to Thunder Nerds. I'm Brian Hinton.
And I'm Frederick Philip Von Weiss, and you are consuming the Thunder Nerds, a conversation with the people behind the technology that love what they do.
Do tech good.
Pow! Boom! Welcome, everybody. Just to preface really quick, I am very sick with the flukitis this week, so if I have any kind of cough or whatnot, please forgive me. But let's go ahead and welcome our guest. We have a very special guest. Super excited to talk to her. We have web designer, YouTuber, podcaster, design educator, Charli Marie. Welcome to the show, Charli.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, that business card must be pretty big. Like a postcard size.
No one has business cards these days. It's just in the Twitter bio, you know.
That's true. That's true.
Good point. Hey, how was your travels? Are you back now? Are you back at home?
Yes, I've been home for only a week, and I'm heading away again tomorrow, actually. So there's been a lot of traveling this year.
Nice.
Yeah, you were just in America, right?
Yes, I was just in America for a company retreat, and then just a little bit of exploring and seeing some friends after it. And I'm heading back tomorrow for a conference that I'm hosting a workshop at.
Oh, nice. What conference?
It's called Epicurrents. It's run by a designer called Dan Petty. Yeah, it's in Yosemite,
Nice.
So it should be beautiful surroundings for some learning.
Nice.
I love that video where you were in what was it? Joshua, by the Joshua tree? Is that it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that was a little side trip I took with some workmates after our company retreat. It was beautiful scenery. I've never seen anything like it. You know?
Yeah, I love all your travel videos. I really like that one video too you just did with the traveling in first class.
Yep, that was pretty fun. We bought business class flights over to New Zealand, which is where I'm from. If anyone didn't recognize the accent, I'm not from Australia. I'm from New Zealand. We went back for Christmas.
Do people confuse it?
Oh, yeah, all of the time.
I imagine,
Or sometimes I get asked if I'm South African, which always... I think their accents sound a lot different, but anyway.
I don't know if you saw my comment in there was a tweet you made maybe like 2 weeks ago, and I would love to see Netflix pick you up for a design and travel show. I think that would be a super cool. No, I'm serious. I think
she's like, I would hate that.
Would you really? Oh, I would love that. I think that'd be so cool to like designing around the world or something. I'd love that.
Yeah, that would be super fun. I just did actually a trip to Scotland at the end of last year, where the Scottish Tourism Board invited me up to go meet this tartan designer and learn about like the design background of Scottish history. That was pretty fun. Like I could definitely imagine that turning into a fuller production thing, but it was just me and my little vlog camera. So, what you gonna do?
Well, that's a pilot.
Cool.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know if Netflix would pick up that show as a pilot though, but
we're talking to Andy Law tomorrow, so maybe we could get him to talk to the buddies at Netflix and see if we could get that moving along.
There we go. Get the word in.
Yeah, we know some people. Yeah, I find you very inspirational. Forgive me, I saw one of those goofy things on Facebook today, but it was topical and it made me think of you. It was one of those things where it said you could choose to live in. It was a roller coaster analogy. Let me preface: is you could choose to live in the front row, or you could choose to live in the back row. And they showed like these people in the front row, like and the people in the back row just kind of observing. But like I think it's topical because I believe that's how you choose to live your life. You're somebody that's actually taking what life has to give you and exploring all your options.
Yeah, for sure. Over the past few years, actually, since I moved to London, I feel like I've been trying to do this more and more. Maybe it was to do with, okay, I'm living in this new country now. I don't know how long I'm going to be here, so I want to make sure I make use of every single opportunity that I can. And also, there's just a lot more that happens here that like opportunities I couldn't have access to back in New Zealand. So I've definitely been trying to seize the day, as they say, and and go for things and not just wait for opportunities to come around as well, but actually go out there and try and make them happen for myself too.
Yeah, I feel like now you should be like just brush off both your shoulders, be like, yeah, that's me.
Well, there's definitely something to be said about being around a group of people that's inspiring and will inspire you. Yeah. That's why people go to such institutions like a art college or a development kind of institution like the Iron Yard or something like that, although they closed. But you get what I mean. Like being around those kind of people provides that inspiration for you to say, oh, you know what, I like what they're doing, and I'm going to see what I could do. And I find that super useful for me.
Yeah, totally. Being around people who push you to be your best, you know, and people who are better than you. Like they say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you got to find a different room, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because then there's nobody to learn from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm a big follower of your YouTube channel. Mostly I've watched your reviews. I find your insight in the Surface and the iPad and things like that. I enjoy that. And I was kind of disappointed you didn't do how you want to improve in 2018 as a designer yet. Are you doing that?
I have not done that as a video. Maybe I should. This year I've tried to not overwhelm myself, although I've only been home for 2 weeks out of the year so far.
Yeah, you're doing really well.
No, don't know how much I've done that. But yeah, I set myself a couple of different focuses for the year. I'm focusing a lot more on my career these days rather than the side projects, I think, because I have such a great job at the moment that I just absolutely love, and it's given me a lot of space to like work on these amazing projects. So, you know, I'm trying to put a lot of focus into them.
I love that story too. I think you told the story about how you met your employer on your podcast with Femke Design Life, which is an amazing podcast, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, that's a cool story. Do you mind just giving us a little bit of context of that?
Yeah, that's kind of one of those like opportunities that came my way. Like it was a chain of events that led to me being in this current job. So when I moved to London, I joined this online community called the Sean Wes community. He's like a online business person, like does a lot of advice and that sort of thing. And yeah, runs this community full of people who are working on side hustles and trying to build their business. I joined it because I was finally in a time zone where I was like more overlapping with America. So there was more chance of other people being online when I was. They saw me being really active in that community. And so I got invited to speak at the conference because Sean was really impressed with how I was running my YouTube channel and uploading videos consistently. So I gave a talk on uploading videos with consistency and creating content on a consistent schedule. It was pretty cool. At that conference, also giving a talk was Nathan Barry, who's a designer and a blogger, been around the internet for years. He started a company called ConvertKit, which is email marketing software. And after his talk, I thought he was really inspiring and amazing, obviously. It was a great talk. He invited me and Femke out for lunch the next day, which was pretty cool. We just sat in this pizza place talking for like 3 hours about design, about, you know, industry, online business, side hustles. Great conversation. And partway through it, he was like, hey, Charlie, have you ever thought about working remotely for an email marketing software company? And I was like, well, I guess now I have. And that's when it went from there. And yeah, now I work there, work remote, and it's a really, really great job.
I love that too, because it gives you so much freedom to be able to do what you do. You do a lot of traveling, you do a lot of speaking. And I think that kind of being in those kind of communities, like we just talked about earlier, definitely germinates more interest in into what other people are doing, and just being, I think, authentic is the key. And you're definitely an authentic person. If anybody has watched any of your videos, that comes across very clearly. You know, have you always been so comfortable in front of the camera? Because you seem to be just like, you know, this is me, here I am. And, you know, you have a great personality and it just comes through.
You know what? I'm not going to encourage anyone to do this, but if you went to my video feed and like sorted it from oldest to newest, you would not think that. You would see that right when I started, I was so...
We'll put a link to video 1 in the show notes, everybody. Don't worry about it.
I don't even think you can link to video 1. I think I hid it from view because it was that embarrassing.
My week in outfits is the first video that shows up.
Yeah, see, that's not the first video that was created.
Sorry,
so
I didn't mean to bring that up like that.
But no, it's just been practice over time, to be honest. You know, I've always been, I guess, quite like, you know, a conversationalist in real life with people, with the right kind of people, because I am an introvert. So sometimes that's hard for me to just, you know, talk about surface level stuff. But yeah, getting that to come out on camera was mostly just over time. Like you have to be awkward for like 100 videos before you can be okay. It's just a fact. I don't know any fast route to that, unfortunately.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm definitely an introvert. I always say I'm an extroverted introvert. Like I want to be more outgoing, and I try to be more outgoing, but then I could only be around people for so long before I need to go somewhere in my cave and just kind of recharge.
That sounds exactly like me. Like I love being around people and like, you know, love talking to interesting people, but can only do it for so long before I'm absolutely exhausted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel you on that. But yeah, it doesn't come across that way on camera. You have such a, and I think that's probably that your authenticity just lends to your personality on camera, and it just comes out. What brought you actually to London? Because it wasn't that job. Why did you leave New Zealand? Did you just find that there was more opportunities in London, and why London specifically?
Well, London specifically because I knew I wanted to move to Europe, and I had a British passport, and I don't speak any other language fluently other than English. So London it is. Also, I was working at a tech company called Xero. They made accounting software, and they had an office in London, and I was able to transfer. So that was a great in to like having a job in London without, you know, having some security when I made this huge, scary move to the other side of the world was great.
Good on you.
That was another reason for London.
Yeah, good on you for like taking that giant leap. How old were you when you did that?
That was only like 3 years ago. So, how old would I have been then? I was like 25-ish, 26. I can't even remember how old I am. I just had a birthday last week and I've already forgotten.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too. I just had a birthday on the 19th.
Nice. Happy birthday to you too.
What, Brian?
By the way, I really want to just note to anyone who does go back and look through her YouTube videos. I was doing that, and it's very interesting to see the progression of your cover photo image. And
they were terrible to start with.
To start with, it was literally just text on the image. That's it. But then you started developing it, and what's interesting in the recent ones is that you have a border around each one, which makes it stand out in the feed significantly more probably. That's the designer thinking right there, where UX, and you also differentiate between, and I'm not really sure the difference between the teal and the purple. Like why is one purple and one is teal?
The teal is vlogs, so it's like follow me around, like look at my life type thing, and then the purple ones are more like sit down talking to the camera.
I understand that now. I see that now. And that's awesome. Good insight and tips for anyone that is doing videos themselves. So, but anyway, I didn't want to sidetrack there. I just thought that was interesting.
No, that's a good point. And I like too what to append to Brian what he's talking about. I like how you're doing the more of like the illustrations on top of that with the iPad and making those just a little bit more, I guess, authentic and kind of cool.
Yeah,
you have a style now.
I used to use that iPad for sure. Let me tell you, I just love it so much.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't find a iPad bullet journal app. I know how much you love the bullet journals.
Well, the thing is, the bullet journal, the beauty of it, I've got it sitting right here next to me, in fact. The beauty of it is that it is analog, right? And that it's this physical thing that you're writing down. I just don't know if the iPad can fully capture that.
And there's something about so good on a journal.
Yeah, so good.
There's something about real world texture as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's nothing like pen and paper.
I kind of almost wonder, like, if what the next generation, if they will feel the same way. I wonder if we feel that way because we have had that experience with pen and paper.
Right.
And so to us, it's like almost comforting to do that. And I wonder if my son, if he will like think of it in the same way.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, that is interesting. Hey, I wanted to ask you about the YouTube channel and what made you actually want to start the YouTube channel as an introvert, a fellow introvert. It's it's scary getting in front of a camera. What was the inspiration for you to just take that jump and start pushing out videos? You do it twice a week now, right? You said you're doing Tuesday and a Thursday, I believe.
Yeah. Tuesday and Saturday, although lately it's just been the weekend ones. I've not been editing fast enough to upload on the Tuesday too. But yeah, YouTube, you're right. It does seem a weird thing for an introvert to do. But it comes back to me for, you know how I said I like to meet the right kind of people and I like to have good conversations. I noticed my younger sister, she started a YouTube channel and she was meeting these really cool people from the New Zealand YouTube community because it was quite small back then. Not many people were doing it. So you kind of knew everyone else who also had a YouTube channel. And I was like, this looks like a really fun community to be a part of. I really want to do that. And I also started watching a lot of YouTube videos and was like, okay, so people talk about their lives. Yeah. Like, I want to hear from people like me. Like, where's the other designers at? And I couldn't really find anybody who was being like showing themselves in design videos. There was lots of tutorials, like any, if you want to do in Photoshop, you can learn to do on YouTube. But there wasn't so many people who were talking about design and like life as a designer. And so I thought, well, maybe I could make that type of video that I would have found really useful to see myself when I was, you know, in design school. So yeah.
Well, and I like too that you don't just make it to, like you said, you're citing all those like tutorial videos and people trying to make themselves professional, like back like 10, 20 years ago, where you would make a website and you would make it a name, like you didn't actually make it your name. You would make it kind of sound like you were a corporation. Like it's more about being
like creative studio.
Yeah, you know, just be you and show who you are. It's kind of like showing your work. We were talking to a gentleman yesterday about not just having a portfolio site with just a bunch of images, but actually have some copy on there. Explain what you did and show a little bit about who you are, right?
Yeah, totally. This is what I'm hosting a workshop at this conference that I said I was going to next week. And it's all about that. It's about self-promotion for designers and creatives and how it's not all about the work. It's about building a reputation for a certain thing and how there's things you can do to like encourage that and put that out there.
I know Brian had some questions about your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I do want to say too that Flux and Mackenzie Child, for anyone who's listening to the show and like what she's doing, there are two other channels that are pretty good that do essentially similar things.
Like my favorites.
Mackenzie especially, although lately he's slacked a little. But
how dare he work so hard on other things?
Yeah, geez, does he have a day job? But I was curious how the growth has been, and if you're actually trying to monetize it all, if you have monetized, and what I mean. Obviously, you don't have to share exact numbers, but I'm curious how well that is working for you.
Yeah, totally. So, okay, when you were looking back through my old videos just before, did you also notice that there was a lot of videos about fashion and DIY projects, and like I think there's some cooking videos in there. I used to do a bunch of everything on YouTube as well as design videos, and it was about, maybe it was about 2 years ago now, I made this switch to focusing on design. And honestly, since I made that focus on design, my like growth has shot up since then because like it's a good niche, right? And I'm not confusing people by doing a bunch of different stuff. I'm just doing design. So that's been amazing. I've been, growing at a fairly steady pace for the past few years, which has been nice. In terms of monetization, I actually turned ads off on my videos a couple of years ago because I decided that I didn't like that products and companies were being advertised against my content that I didn't have control over. Yeah. I'm not opposed to ads, like as a concept. I just am opposed to some brands that, advertise on YouTube and would be shown on my videos.
Who you should use is Squarespace.
Well, funny you mentioned that. That's actually how I monetize my videos themselves, is through sponsorships rather than just advertising. And Squarespace did sponsor some videos for me last year, which was pretty cool.
I've joked that I feel like Squarespace should have a podcast and then advertise people that advertise Squarespace.
I love that. That's double meta.
No, they're really cool to work with because they were like, as long as you say the link, here's some main points, but just say whatever you think about it, and we want it to sound natural coming from you. So I think that a lot of the podcasts, to be honest, just get lazy and read out the thing as it is. But I really enjoyed just being able to talk about it in my own way.
Yeah, I've liked how you did the live drawing of beautiful templates and things like that. So you made it more, personal, which is, I think, the failure of advertising in general, and the fact that they gave you that freedom. Yeah, 2 thumbs up, Squarespace.
Yeah, totally. I don't think I'd ever take on a sponsorship from a company that didn't give that freedom. If they're too prescriptive, then it just becomes like, you might as well just take out a billboard. Like, that's not why you come to a content creator. That's,
Exactly. Hey, I wanted to ask you a question. Janelle Pizarro, one of our other hosts, couldn't make it today. She had some other engagements, but I wanted to get one of her questions in. It's a great question. So I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to add a little bit to it. So she asks, is there anything you had to give up as productive as you are? So I guess she's asking, since you're so productive, is there anything that you had to push aside, anything that you wanted to do that you couldn't get to do? Because I mean, you're doing a lot. You have a lot of side projects. You wrote and said that you're addicted to side projects. So is there anything that you had to kind of, I guess, push to the side to be able to do what you're doing?
I think that I'm always going to have a list of ideas as long as my arm that I can't work on, because there's just simply not enough time in the day. I think being someone who's addicted to side projects is all about prioritizing and picking your favorite ideas and leaving the other ones to sit in like the notes app on your phone to come back to perhaps at a later date, but that they're never really going to get to, but you write them down anyway. There's definitely a lot of things that I've had to, a lot of ideas that I can't work on that I do have, and focuses as well. Like, I used to really want to focus on designing merch for the music industry. That was like a passion that I had. I mean, I still love music, and I thought that maybe I could combine it and design in some way, but I was going about it in a really half-hearted way. And I realized, like, if I really want to commit to this and like get these clients, I kind of have to change a lot about what I'm doing and, put a lot of work into some different avenues in order to make this happen. And I just realized that it wasn't really worth it for me, that I was really happy with the things that I was spending my time on, and that perhaps I could double down on some of this other stuff instead. And so that's like a little dream, I guess, that past Charli had that I've let go a bit over the years. Like, I wouldn't say no if any band wanted to approach me these days, but it's not something I'm actively going out there after, because I've got other passions now.
Sorry, kind of off topic, on topic. So what kind of music are you into?
I'm a big fan of pop punk music and anything sort of like alternative like that. Yeah.
All right, cool. Favorite band?
Favorite band? Well, in the past has always been Fall Out Boy, but the new stuff, not so much.
All right, so we'll make sure that we tweet at Fall Out Boy, and we'll get them. We'll get that going again.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
No problem. Hey, I wanted to ask you about Design Life. This is a really cool podcast, and you have a community that goes along with it, and we'll touch on that because that's super interesting. How did you? First off, I guess, how did you connect with Femke? How did you guys meet?
So we met technically on Twitter back in New Zealand. We both lived in Wellington. And just like the YouTube community is pretty small there, the Twitter community was as well, especially in Wellington. We used to have tweet-ups, which sounds really lame to say nowadays, but they used to go down.
Oh.
Like a meetup with Twitter people.
Okay.
Yeah, a little mastermind on Twitter. Sure.
Yeah.
Let's bring that back. Let's bring it back.
Oh, I don't know. It can probably
hashtag tweet ups.
Yeah. So we met at one of those, and we actually ended up becoming really good friends. We lived together for a year in Wellington with my sister and with her boyfriend Owen. And then I moved to London. She moved to Amsterdam. And we both joined that Sean Wes community that I mentioned before, which there's a podcast as well that goes along with that. And we knew that we wanted to start our own podcast one day, and we thought it'd be good to do it together, because running a podcast, as you guys know, is a lot of work. And so it's better if you do it with someone else rather than just by yourself. And so, we thought we'd talk about design together, because we didn't really see any other design podcasts out there that were just two women talking about design. If there was a female host, she was a co-host, not, there wasn't any all-female shows. So we thought we could add that voice to the mix.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love, there's this one quote, I wanted to read it from Femke, and I love this. This is in the title of Why Have a Side Project. It's the hardest part about a side project is perseverance. It's so easy to have an idea for something and start on something, but actually persevering and sticking with it, even when you aren't seeing results straight away, is really difficult. And that's where the hustle part comes in. I think that really defines a lot of the things that you do too, where you said, you have all these things going on, and it's just that there's so many people out there that have all these kind of pie in the sky ideas and they don't actually follow through. But the formula to success is to just find something that you are passionate about and actually just do it.
Yeah, totally. A lot of people, I think, don't realize how much time they actually have in the day and how much you can squeeze into little moments. Like, no one enjoys waking up at, 5:30 or 6 a.m. But if you've got something you're passionate about that you really want to work on and you're going to be too tired after work, that's the time of day when you've got to get up and work on it, because, you've just got to make those sacrifices to make things happen.
Agree. I'm sick with the flu. My wife is super sick with the flu. We have a 3-year-old.
All I hear is excuses.
Exactly.
I'm curious, going back to the question actually that Janelle had, is there any distractions that you have in your life that you've had to be like, no, I know I really want to do that. No, I don't want to binge watch that show this weekend instead of do my project. So is there anything like that you've had to, and what have you done to handle that?
I definitely get distracted all of the time. Like, I feel sometimes I try and talk about this more in my blogs because I worry that people see me as this like hyper productive person 100% of the time. And I don't know.
Calm down. Jeez.
I never want to be that, like, I don't know. I never want to make anyone else feel like they're not working hard enough. That's not what I want them about. I'd rather motivate people to work on their ideas, but I don't want them to, be discouraged and think, oh, well, I don't work 100% of the time, so I can never achieve that. I definitely try and take breaks, especially more nowadays. I'd burnt out at the end of, I think it was the end of last year or the year before maybe. Had a total burnout moment and realized that I was pushing things too hard and that it was time to chill out a bit and be okay with the fact that not every project is going to be achieved on this like super fast, super short timeline if I want to enjoy life, because life is what it's all about. And so these days I do take the time to binge watch a show on Netflix. When Stranger Things came out, that's all I did that day was just watch that,
I still have not watched it.
Oh, Brian, come on. You don't even know you're in the Upside Down yet.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to take those time and rest as hard as you play. Rest as hard as you work.
It's work hard, play hard.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's important too. And whenever I find myself noticing a recurring distraction, I always try and do something to counteract it. Like, there's some days I just cannot work in my house, which is bad when you work from home. Like, you get distracted by the dishes or the washing, or like, oh, let's just rearrange the furniture. And that's when I leave the house and go work from a cafe instead, to try and minimize that distraction and like lack of focus mindset.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what I wanted to ask you about is the community too. So how did you actually start the community? To go back to the podcast, what was the idea about starting the community, and how'd you guys end up actually doing that?
Yeah, we wanted to make a place to connect all these people because we were getting a lot of really great listener questions, like emails, through tweets, things like that. And we're like, oh, these two people need to talk to each other, because you're both going through the same thing. So we knew we wanted to make some place for our listeners to meet up. It was a much bigger job than I think either of us realized when we're like, oh, that'd be cool, to have a community.
Just start a Slack channel.
Oh, man. It's so much more work than that. But yeah, we went through a whole round of beta testing where we had it open for about 4 months with just like a core group of people who signed up at the very start to practice running it and seeing how conversations would flow, how much we'd need to facilitate, and what we could do there. And we built this whole system out. Well, we didn't, but Femke's boyfriend Owen did.
We called it Slack.
Yeah. No, there's like he's built the system on top of Craft CMS that runs community like monthly subscriptions and like a whole back end they can log into and change their details and things. And it was a lot of work, but definitely worth it because there's about 140 or so people in there now, 120 to 40, I can't remember. But loads of great conversations happening whenever I pop in, which is always nice to see that I don't have to be the one leading it, that there's other people who are just excited to talk to each other.
And it's a $9 a month charge?
Yep. So it's like a monthly subscription fee, and you get access to the Slack. We also do extra resources for community members as well. That's what's inside that craft CMS I was mentioning before. And we do live streams for them too, which is really fun because it's scary to live stream to the whole world, which I guess is what we're doing right now. But live streaming just to our community members, we just have like a more of an intimate chat, which is pretty fun.
It's also only $90 if you do a year, which is cheaper. which I just did. I'm going to see what I think about it.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in having a group of people that have the same kind of interest, kind of like we were talking about when you went from New Zealand to London, having that sense of community that everybody's into the same thing. And just like your Design Life community, it's $9 is a great price to be able to have this resource where you know that everybody is going there with I don't want to say agenda, but the same kind of interests and want to help out each other. And that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, I like to think of it as almost like the water cooler for like colleagues who are all just as motivated as you are. And you can always pop in and have a really interesting conversation with someone. You don't have to start with a small talk as well. And there's always someone there to give you feedback, and in turn for you to give feedback to. I just think that those sort of creative communities really benefit from being more private. Sometimes people feel a bit more okay with talking in them, when a lot of people don't really tweet much, but they will talk in these communities just because it feels like it's not going out to the whole world,
Yeah, it's not searchable. It's not, you're not going to find something that I wrote on SERPs like from 3 years ago that might have been kind of goofy. Like I just want to keep that in that community. Yeah, that's a great point. I see a lot of value in that.
Oh, and I think the buy-in also is a big I don't know if value is the right word, but when you buy into something, you're investing. Yeah, you're investing in the community and yourself. When you do it, you're not just being like, oh, I'm going to join this Slack community, and then there's like 3,000 people in there and like 200 messages at every like hour, and you're like, how do I follow this?
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah. There's a lot of free creative communities out there, but we wanted to make one where that everyone else who's in here really wants to be here because they've paid to be here,
Yeah, and just some insight into it. So I'm looking it over right now live on the show. Like book club, they have a book club, which looks like every month there's a book that everyone reads, and some people read, some people don't. But it's interactive, like almost like it's like I go into a book club.
Yeah,
only it's online, which is nice. So I like that. And there's stuff about the podcast, where you can actually see the new announcements on there, and there's all sorts of great things on here. So
one of my favorite channels is the Real Talk channel, we called it, where we're trying to facilitate deeper conversations, like get people to that deeper level. So we'll have topics like, I think one we're setting, if it was today or if it's
dealing with stress.
Dealing with stress, yeah. So yeah, we've also done ones about toxic relationships, about having to deal with difficult co-workers, giving people a space, being like, hey, if this is something you struggle with, share your thoughts in here and let's have a discussion about it.
I think too, also some of these make great podcast and video topics as well too. So
totally.
You could pull from that, because if there's so many people asking about one thing, you could go, you know what, maybe we could address this a little bit more in depth and do a deep dive into it.
Oh, hello, dog. Yeah.
Sorry. Life textures.
Life textures, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually how I get most of my video ideas these days, is from the comments in videos, really. As soon as someone asks a question more than once, like not the same person, I mean, as soon as I see a question more than once, I'm like, okay, I really need to make a video so I can just link to answer this in the future. That'll be really useful for me, and obviously really useful for everyone who's asking and the people who have thought it but haven't actually asked me the question.
Yeah, that's cool. You're actually responding to real topical things.
Yeah.
And I've seen that she actually does go in and respond on YouTube to comments. I'm sure that depends upon your daily lifetime, but you actually responded to one of mine too, because I commented on your. I'm a Microsoft fanboy, so when you didn't like the Surface, I was like, what? I mean, all that in mind, I have an iPad Pro. I have a Surface. I like it. I like it all. I think that there's benefit as a designer to know what's on each side of the fence, so to speak. But yeah, I do find it interesting though that you find the iPad. I almost wonder if the reason you like the iPad over the Surface 2 is the fact that there's an app, you go into it and you do the work. There's no like, oh, there's this desktop that has these, all these different apps that load up. There's this action center over here. There's the start menu. It's just like you open Procreate and you start drawing. There's nothing else.
Yeah, I wonder if it is that. I think that I could cut my iPad down to just like 3 apps, to be honest.
Oh, what are the 3?
Procreate is definitely one. Another one is Concepts, which is another drawing app, but it has an infinite canvas. So I love using that for wireframes because I can just like draw one, move it along, draw another one, and not worry about falling apart.
Brush too.
Yep, there we go. Yeah. And also the last one would be Netflix.
Nice.
There's your play. 2 work, 1 play.
Yep.
That's a good balance.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, do you have any speaking events coming up soon?
Yeah, well, actually, there's one next week at this conference. I'm hosting that workshop. And the only other one I've so far this year is Craft and Commerce, which is a conference that we put on at ConvertKit. It's going to be in Boise, Idaho, and I'm going to be speaking about YouTube and creating and the path to 100,000 subscribers. Hopefully, I'm hoping that I'll reach that number by the time the conference happens in June.
You're getting there. You're like what, 82,000 last I checked.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I unsubscribe, resubscribe like rapidly without help.
I don't know. I think that might actually hinder. Casey Neistat is speaking at that conference too, which I'm really excited about. So we're basically going to have him do his, super motivational, however many million subscribers talk he has one day, and then the next day I'll be like, but here's how you can get started and like do it in a more approachable way.
How has your growth been? I feel like we're talking about the YouTube channel a lot, but it is an interesting topic. But how much have you seen like an upward curve as it's progressed?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've been doubling each year so far. So every year on my YouTube anniversary, I call it, I make a video reflecting on the past year on YouTube, and in that I always say how many subscribers I'm at. And I think in the first year I hit 3,000, if I'm remembering correctly. The second year was about 14,000. The third year was 30-something thousand. And then the fourth year was 70-something thousand. So
that's quite a big steep curve. Yeah.
It's pretty exponential growth. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's really exciting to see. And I just hope that it keeps up. But I'm, also trying to keep in mind that the YouTube algorithm, we're all beholden to it. And so at any point it could just suddenly dip down and dive off. And
algorithm, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Are you nervous though about that? I mean, 1 million subscribers suddenly, and there's 1 million people that are watching every single video. Like, how does it make you feel that like it could get to the point that you have like hundreds and thousands of views on each video?
That does seem very scary, but what I've always tried to do is make sure that I'm making the type of content that I'm happy with and that I want to make. I think there are so many things that I could be doing differently if what I wanted was to grow really big, right? Like, there's a lot of videos I wouldn't make if that was the case, and there's a lot of things I do differently. But I very purposefully want to build an audience of people who are interested in the same stuff that I am. And so that's what I focus on. And I'm okay with it not being as big because of that, because I feel like the people who are there are all really nice people. And I don't get that much hate comments apart from on that Surface Book video.
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel like that's always... there's always going to be the people that are like, oh my God, mine is better than yours. and they're going to come on, they're like, I can't believe you didn't like mine.
Exactly. But for the most part, my audience are really kind and great people. I've met up with a lot of them IRL offline when I've traveled to different cities and things like that. And they've all been really great to talk to. So I just want to build an audience of the right type of people. And then I think maybe it won't be so scary if there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I like that you don't do the I don't know the word for it, but you don't title your YouTube videos. Yeah, there we go. That I couldn't think of clickbait.
7 reasons to blah blah blah.
Well, this is the last design tool you'll ever need. Face.
Yeah, I heard that from somewhere. Oh, hey, speaking of design tools, I know I wanted to ask you, how's the website going?
It's going slowly.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of other stuff.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of other stuff that's been my focus this month, so it's not really happened. You know, I've been wanting to make sure that when I travel, I am actually spending the time to go see the city I'm in, to go meet up with the people who are there. And that's one of those things where I'm talking about being okay with things moving at a slower pace to make way for other experiences. Because at the end of the day, it's only me who, like, you know, it's my project. No one else is waiting on me for it, apart from all the people that I told I would have it done in February.
All the hundreds of thousands of people. The pressure's mounting.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if I'm going to make it by February, to be honest. We'll see how maybe tomorrow goes on the plane if I get some more done.
I like what you were talking about with the way you want everything to kind of fit into the certain, what was the word you used? And I
think that I call them playlists.
Playlist, yeah. I love that idea. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I really want my website to be more of a hub for all of my content online, and almost like learning paths for people to go down as well. Like if you want to learn about the business side of design, here is like a stream of posts and videos you can read to do with that. And like maybe start with this one if you're at this level, or, you know. Yeah,
and it's multimedia, like all, like whether it's blogs or videos or whatever, all of this in the same playlist, and that way it's all the relative content. But that's a cool way to think about it. I love that idea. And you're building this in Webflow?
I am.
Going to build it in Webflow? Yeah.
I visited the Webflow offices when I was in San Francisco. Actually, it was really fun.
They convinced you while you're there.
Well, I actually was convinced before then, but I was able to ask them some questions about it, which was good while I was there.
Yeah, I like it. It's a really awesome tool. My problem still is with that it's hard to have a front end item influence the back end CMS. Like you can't, for instance, if you want to have a like, you know, just example, you want to have a like on your post and have it change something and have that tracked. You can't do that within Webflow still. Like that sort of stuff. Apparently they're working on it. I met up with one of the guys that worked at Webflow and had lunch with him here. And that's one of the things they're working on. But it's a really awesome tool. I love how it makes code something that's accessible to everyone. And the fact that you can even export it out while you're learning code and look it over and the code is clean. The CSS selectors are clean. It's an awesome tool. Do you actually use it now, or is this for the new site? And are you going to be using the CMS stuff, or?
I'm going to be using the CMS for the new site. And actually one of the reasons why I want to build it in Webflow is because I haven't had much of a chance to play with it. Like I made a single page for it for a little mini course that I did about getting paid on time. But apart from that, I haven't really been able to use it because it's not really something we can use at work, which is when I'm mostly spending my time designing websites. We have an existing system in place on WordPress. It's like a whole very complicated WordPress theme all set up. And although, of course, we could transfer it all over to Webflow, that would take hours and hours and hours of work to get everything that we already have on Webflow, on WordPress set up in Webflow. And so it's just not worth it when we both know, me and the other designer at work, both know how to code for WordPress. So yeah, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Although the Webflow team has been trying to convince me, and I'm like, just give up, guys. It's fine.
We should tell them
too, is just to actually do it. Just build websites. Yeah. I think I heard that from some little small podcast called something, but they always say just build websites. But just building. That's
like shop talk something.
Shop discuss. Something like that.
Shop talk show. We'll link to it. I was gonna ask. Frederick, save me.
So we're getting around to the end of the show, and we have some few questions for you. So yeah, I know we had a bunch of stuff in the document to talk about, but time goes. But Brian, start us off with the spotlight.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my question, the spotlight question, is basically something you've discovered. I mean, you've just been on an amazing trip. It could be something cool you discovered there. We'll go first. It's a group question.
Okay.
Mine, actually, since we were just talking WordPress, it's funny because mine is actually Gutenberg, which Gutenberg is basically the redesigning the editor in WordPress. And it's built in React. It's modern. You can actually componentize your posts. There's going to be templating structures where you can. It's just, I'm really excited about it because you can have a post and build these custom blocks that are in the editor that correspond to your featured image. Another one could be like a testimonial. So you can lay it out. And as a designer too, it's especially awesome. You can build these blocks in such a way that they just modify the content. They're not messing with it visually. It's just incredible. And I also want to kind of highlight Zach Gordon, who built a really great Gutenberg course on how to develop for it. So we'll have links for both of those in the show notes. I'm just really excited about it. It's the first time that, I mean, WordPress is great in a lot of ways, but it's the first time I've actually been like, oh my God, WordPress. Like, who does that? I mean, no one does that anymore. We all hate coding in PHP, really. But this is pretty awesome stuff. So, Frederick?
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Want to look at that more. I know we were talking about that last week. Super interesting. Yeah, mine is a new thing. I haven't had a lot of time to, I'm going to look at my phone because that's where it's at. I haven't had a lot of time to invest in it just because I've been so sick. But it's this app that actually Brian made me aware of called Anchor. And I got an email about it the other day. And looks pretty cool. You probably have seen this as well, Charlie. It's a kind of an iPhone. Let me see if I can get the focus on it. Anchor. So it's a podcast app, and it's supposed to be the easiest way to make a podcast ever. So you could record on it and push everything up. Maybe Brian, you looked at this a little bit more and could provide more content.
I haven't downloaded it, but what it is basically, it's like a community for podcasting, and it has a lot of interesting things. For instance, you can have a recording that you did in one show, and it functions as a clip, so that when you record another show, you can actually take that and you can reuse audio clips across podcast episodes and things like that. There's a lot of interesting things with it. There's a really great review I saw on YouTube that I think we'll link in the show notes for it, because it's an interesting platform. I'm not sure how I feel about it because they don't own your content in copyright way, but you can't. It doesn't host it anywhere else. It hosts on them. So relying on such a young platform is kind of disconcerting for me. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely something to look into, though.
Definitely. Yeah.
What about you, Charlie? What you got?
Oh, okay. I can think of two things. I've got a podcast and also like a little design tool. Which one do you guys want to hear?
Let's hear both. Go for it.
Okay, both then. So the little design tool I love using is called SVG OMG. And basically it compresses SVG files. You just upload it to the site, and there's a bunch of little toggles you can do to depending on how you want to compress it and what you want to do to take stuff out, and super handy for the web development flow. The podcast that I'm loving listening to at the moment is called Sad Boys with a Z on the end. It's by Jarvis and Jordan. These two guys, they live in San Francisco. They're both engineers. I think they both work at Patreon. And they talk about feelings and stuff and their life. And they talk about overwhelm, about burnout, stress, about crying. I think it's
What's
really
it called?
Awesome.
What's it called?
Sad Boys.
Sad Boys.
Yeah. It's really great. Jarvis is one of my friends. I met up with him in San Francisco, and it's one of my favorite podcasts to listen to these days. Good dose of feelings.
Yeah, I think we all need a little more of that in our life. We all try to put that kind of cardboard tank in the front as we go out the door at 7 a.m. and we don't actually talk about how things affect us on a human level. Yeah, totally. So that's what I love about what they're doing. I think it's a super vulnerable thing to put out there, but I'm very proud of them. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, that's going to be my new favorite podcast too. Hey, since we're at the end, you know what? I have one question for you before I get to where I was thinking about. I wanted to ask you, and I love asking this. What would you be doing professionally if you could not use a computer? No computer. Ooh. What would you be doing professionally? No computer. Okay. Well, two things spring to mind. One is that maybe I would go down the screen printing route. I used to have a little t-shirt company where I screen printed t-shirts by hand, although I might need the computer to design them. I could probably get around that, though. I could probably design some things by hand if I needed to. But before I wanted to be a designer, the career that I wanted to have when I was like 14, 15 years old is I wanted to be the person who presented the weather on the news. I was just fascinated by the weather and that whole idea.
standing up there, you know, like clouding in this area. So again, I might need a computer for that, but maybe mostly just a camera and, you know, the news.
It's just blue screen, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Maybe we can edit the video and put it behind you when you did that.
We'll put some little clouds back there. That'd be awesome. That's so cool.
You should do a YouTube video where you do that. Just do one.
Yeah, just present the weather.
Yeah, just for like one like a 2-minute episode, a fun one. Be like,
to appease my
today's weather.
40-year-old self. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
The weather in London is
cloudy, as always.
As always, yeah.
Mark your schedule. So we're at the end of the show. I just want to ask you if you have any kind of final words, any piece of advice that you want to provide our audience, anything you could drop and share with us.
I guess I just always want to encourage people to go after the ideas that they have and don't let them just stay ideas. So my advice for that is to make a list of like points, like what needs to be done to bring this idea to life, break it down into as smaller points as possible, and then start ticking them off like a little bit every single day. And as you get going, you'll get more momentum and you'll get more motivation because of that. And it will feel good to have created something and made your idea come to life.
Nice. That's great. Good advice. Hey, what's the best way people could get in touch with you, find out more about you?
You can find my website at CharliMarie.com. It's Charlie without an E, just to be super confusing, but Marie with an E. So yeah. I'm also tweeting a lot. If you ever want to talk to me, I'm always on Twitter. And my username there is @CharliePrangley. So yeah, reach out to me. Would love to chat.
Awesome. Yeah, great. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the show, Charli. Super appreciate it. And
thanks for having me.
Sharing a little bit of time with us from in the future, 5 hours from now.
No worries.
All right. Well, thank you so much and really appreciate it.